Good morning. So this is the funny to say last day because it feels like we just started, but it's the last day of this weekend that we have a chance to still practice, and we will continue with the Six Paramitas. And this morning I remembered to practice with the senses and the Paramitas. So I had a very tiny walk, and then the sun was on my face, kind of, and so I closed my eyes to let the sun go in. And then I remembered Dana Paramita, generosity, giving. And then I remembered, because the sun was giving me light and warmth, that the generosity is also about being able to receive, not just giving. Because sometimes we refuse to receive because of whatever reason, and it's kind of blocking. So I realized that being able to receive is also generous act. So that is my insight from this morning with the sun, beautiful sun that we have. And today we will continue with virya, which is effort or right effort or energy. Also can be thought of as perseverance, so we don't give up easily, and also as devotion, which again we don't give up easily. We don't expect things to be perfect. So really, immediately you can see how effort and patience go together, right? Because if we have energy, it gives us patience, and the other way around. It also has, like patience, like all of the paramitas, it has courage in it, courage to continue, even when things we don't get it. What's happening here? And the diligence here, particularly, or the effort, relates to the transformation of our own mind. So the trust that we can do it, the trust that we have a place in us that is more awake, more clear, and that we can change. So otherwise we wouldn't bother, right? We wouldn't make an effort. So that there's a trust there. And so according to Buddhism, or to what the Buddha taught, there is we have our mind. Maybe I wasn't planning to, but I'll just explain very briefly about a little bit about the mind, according to Buddhism. But we're not going to go into depth, right? So some of you probably may know it, or have seen it. So let's say this is our mind with our personal consciousness and our collective consciousness, okay? And so this is the conscious mind, which is called in Buddhism mind consciousness. So this is where the mental formations are, meaning we know that we are something. We are feeling this or feeling that, or thinking this or thinking that. And this level of the consciousness, somewhat parallel to the unconscious, but not exactly, is called store consciousness. So here we have all kinds of seeds, collective and personal, and both. So we have the seed of generosity and ethical awareness and patience, efforts, prajna, meditation, love, compassion, all of that we have here. And also other seeds of anger, fear, frustration, attachment, jealousy, all of that. And then when something happens, it awakens the seed. Maybe the seed is dormant, and then it becomes a mental formation. It blooms into a mental formation, okay? Whatever it is. And so when we that happens to everyone. But as practitioners, we want to use our mindfulness to kind of be aware of the mental formation, but also be aware of the seeds. That's the thing. That's a special thing. We also want to be aware of the seeds, and that is right effort. So right effort is knowing that we have the choice to not continue to water seeds that we don't want to water. And when they come up here, we take care of them in the right way so they don't become stronger, and not awaken them. And to water, we have the choice to water the seeds we want to water. So in this watering image also implies that we don't have control. We can just do our best, right? We don't know when something will come up. Sometimes we have seeds deep in us and we have no idea they're there. Until one day, puff, we're met with a deep-seated imprint. So this is right effort. It's called selective watering. So we can do it with awareness to both levels of consciousness, the one that we are aware of and the one that is more hidden. And we don't have to dig. No digging, okay? It's not the practice. It's just being aware. This is called selective watering. And it's not, sometimes we practice and we think, oh, that's it, I'm a good practitioner. I shouldn't be feeling this or that, and we do feel it. So we get discouraged, and we don't want to make any effort. So you see how we need patience with ourselves and with other things to continue to have that motivation and that trust that we can work with our mind, we can transform it alone and together. And one time there was some challenges, not with me, but with members of my family, and I was really maybe I should have done this, and maybe I should have done that. And a friend told me, who was also a teacher, a Dharma teacher, she said, you know what? We don't get to rehearse life. Nobody trained you for this moment, so you did your best. So we don't get to rehearse life is a good, okay? A good reminder to not give up, okay? Sometimes we're surprised. Do you understand this idea that we don't get to rehearse life? We are surprised by something sometimes. Nobody told us. How should we prepare ourselves for certain moments in our lives that we never knew would come, right? So this is effort. We don't give up, even if something surprises us and we don't exactly know what to do. And therefore we need to see also we have wisdom in it, because we see beyond the definitions of failure and success, right? We go beyond that when we practice right effort. So there are 3 ways to practice with the seeds or mental formations in our consciousness. Seed is when it's dormant, and mental formation when it manifests in the world, in us. So there's 3 ways, okay? I'll write them down and then we can go into them. 3 ways to practice with our mind to find peace, okay? And our mind is part of the world, so the first way is to, it's again has to do with right effort, okay? So we're still talking about right effort, to cultivate joy, all right? So you see a lot of, without judging anybody, but a lot of practitioners, including ourselves sometimes, or certain traditions, people, when they practice, they're very serious. And it's okay, because we need to concentrate, we need to make an effort. But Thai says we have enough suffering, so we need to touch joy. Not to be joyfully weirdly joyful, but there's this term of toxic positivity. No, we really want to stop so we can enjoy the sun, kind of washing our face, the mountains, the air. So this is what it is meant by cultivating joy, right? If we're really present, we appreciate what is there, and we're naturally joyful. It's a natural joy. It's not a kind of a high, kind of a party kind of joy. So maybe you can say also gratitude or appreciation. Gratitude. So if we are really aware, if we really stop, even if we just look at our hand, it's amazing, no? There's amazing stuff happening here. Anything is amazing if we know how to look. So that's wonder, to look with a sense of wonder. So that's the first way to practice. So remember, when we talk about effort, it's not like, no. It's first of all, remember to touch joy. And then the second way is to practice continuously. Okay? Yeah, something like that. So we are aware throughout the day, which is really one of the special things in the Plum Village tradition of practice. We are aware of everything that we do. It's not easy to. And what happens then when we stop all day long, remember to stop, we start noticing things that are more subtle, that are not so easy to detect. That's what happens. Small things. And so we start to be more aware of what's happening in our store consciousness through small expressions of physical movement, something's a thought, something like that. So practice continuously. And the third one is purposefully to, how should I say it? Look at our demons, look at our monsters, like the monsters that we said. Invite monsters. Invite our little monsters, and then we may not call them monsters anymore. We maybe call them something else. They're not monsters anymore. And this we do only when we feel ready, not at any moment. And there's meditations that help us to do it, that help us to touch our fears. There's the 5 remembrances and other things. There are meditations about contemplating a dead body, things like that. So that's kind of, we do it when we're ready. And sometimes we need help. We need another person's help to look more deeply, okay? So we also need to be gentle with that. And when we practice cultivating joy, it also already helps indirectly with our monsters, because they also feel joy. It becomes easier to relate to. So as I said, I think yesterday, that we don't always need to kind of address things directly. Sometimes we can do it indirectly. Something in our neural pathway changes, and things are easier. We create new neural pathways with more space in us, and then it's easy to do the third one. And all of those things give us more stability, more peace. We're less shaken. And right effort, of course, is very related. All of these things are basically practicing meditation, right? Which is the next paramita, or dhyana, meditation. And here, I'll write down again. So wait, before that, any questions or remarks about right effort? Okay. We keep the questions for later. So. Okay, so now we go to meditation, which is what we do here anyway, right? Practice of meditation. But it has two main components. One is stopping, shamatha. Is there an H after the T? Does anyone remember? Yes. And so samatha and vipassana. So this is stopping or mindfulness. And this is concentration or looking deeply or investigating, which is same, right? So stopping, we did it a lot in the retreat, right? We stopped with the bell, we noticed our breathing, we noticed our body, we noticed our movement, we noticed our senses, where do they go? This is stopping. So what do we stop? What is it that we stop? Why is it called stopping? I think the Chinese character for this quality of shamatha, which is sometimes called calming, also interpreted as calming, is literally stop, like a stop sign. So what do we stop? What do we need to stop? When you come here and practice in this retreat, what do you stop? Thoughts, okay. Can you stop thoughts? No, I'm asking seriously. Can you stop thoughts? We can. You can't stop, but you can. If you focus on your breathing, naturally stops. It stops the constant thinking, sort of radio. Yeah. So anything else you stop? Doing. Yeah.
Sort things out, become more clear.
So you stop trying to sort things out. Is that what you say? As I asked, what do you stop when you come here?
Yeah, I know.
So,
no, I stopped to sort.
stop to sort. Okay, yes, stop to sort. Yeah, that's a good. Okay, stop to. That's a stopping for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And we stop running, right? Stop running. Stop thinking that we have to do this and have to do that, and then it's easier to sort things out because we're not busy. So we're kind of practicing busylessness, being a businessless person. Not a business person, a businessless. That's a joke that I used to make. We're a businessless person. So we calm our body and our mind and our emotions with touching joy, being aware of the breathing, being aware of the walking and the eating and everything. And that's stopping. And that also helps us to stop the tendency to dwell in the past or in the future. Okay? Do not pursue the past. Do not lose yourself in the future because life is in the present moment. So there's a beautiful sutra, if you ever want to look it up. It's called the Discourse on Knowing the Better Way to Live Alone. And it describes very clearly what it means to stop. And what it means to think about the past without getting lost in it and think about the future without getting lost in it. It's very, very simple and very beautiful. So this is what we do. We remember, and stopping mindfulness means also remembering. So this is samatha, but there's also smriti. Smriti means, which is mindfulness. It means to remember to stop. Remember that it's important not to do sometimes. Sometimes it's important to do, and sometimes it's important not to do. So this is the stopping. And it's an antidote to distraction, to restlessness, to overdoing, to overdrive, to forgetfulness, to that I don't want to know kind of situation. And the thing is, if you notice a distracted mind, meaning I think about 10,000 things at the same time, and I walk and I listen to something, and I eat while walking, and I talk on the phone, and A distracted mind, if you notice it, on the long run, is not a happy mind. We're not happy when we're distracted because we can never kind of sink deeply into something. So we're always kind of buzzing. Even a bee that's buzzing, once it gets into the flower, did you see that? It goes into the flower and totally kind of immerses itself in it. So we want to immerse sometimes in order to touch joy and also touch our suffering so we can know what to do with it. So when we stop, we do just that. We touch joy. We're able to touch joy because we're there, and we're also able to be aware of our suffering, and we can do something about it. So that's stopping. And looking deeply, which is the second aspect of meditation, vipassana. You may have heard the word because it's insight meditation. It has the paramita of virya, of energy. It's also called concentration. So we notice something, we're aware of it, and we stay with it. We stay with it, we stay with it until we fully understand it. We see the roots of anything, my fear, for example. I see the roots of it. I see how it affects me. I see how it affects others. I see, is it mine or not just mine? Maybe it belongs to my ancestors too. And that is very helpful for us to transform our mind. This kind of understanding is very important. So sometimes we think of meditation as we come here to calm, which is true, we do. But calming is not enough to do the transformation of our deep seated seeds. We need to look deeper, and that takes effort. So you see, it goes together. We need to look deeply and understand even things that are really not pleasant to look at. There are things that are not pleasant to look at in our mind and outside. So but when we practice stopping and looking deeply, the flower that blooms from it is prajna, is wisdom, which is the next paramita, is clear seeing. So far, before we go to prajna, which again, you can do a whole retreat on that, right? So we're just kind of mentioning it here. Any questions or remarks about meditation? Yep.
Yes, you said before, do not dig in the seeds that do not dig, but then you said invite monster and looking deeply. So you just wait for something to come.
Well, the important thing, it's a good question because I need to explain what I mean by not digging. We don't intellectually try to find out this and that and this and what happened when you were a kid. And it's a good question, but if it's not rooted in what's happening with you in the moment, it's digging for me. But if something actually comes up and I can look at it, then it's not digging, it's looking deeply. So that's for me. I mean, for me, maybe when we have questions and answers, Karomai and Florent and Jackson can have more to say. But this is for me, digging can get intellectual. It's not an intellectual thing. This looking deeply is not necessarily intellectual. It's really with the experience. And sometimes we talk a lot about something, but we don't really understand it. So that's what I mean. Not try to excavate, but really try to see what is relevant right now. Yeah, so thank you for the question. Yes?
I'm wondering about imagination and what sort of role that has.
Mm-hmm.
As you ask us not to be distracted, not to think of the past, not of the future, not to let the mind wander. But imagination has all those things.
We do imagine, all of us. We have a wonderful faculty. We can imagine. And we just need to work with imagination the same way. And actually, Thich Nhat Hanh has a lot of meditations that use the imagination because we have it. So when you notice, like, basically, when you go into the imagination in the form of fantasy, then you can work with that. not fight it, but work with that, or engage your imagination in such a way that would be helpful for the practice. Yeah. So we all imagine. It's fine. It's another way of. It's not really thinking, but it's another form of. And sometimes our imagination maybe works with symbols, with archetypes that come from our consciousness. And they're actually important. So it's not good or bad if that's what you're asking. It's just what it is. It's something that happens. So is that clear? Okay. So we can listen to the sound of the bell. So there's one more thing about meditation. It wouldn't happen by itself. We need to dedicate time and place for it in our life. We need to decide that it's really important for us to make the effort. So that's kind of important to remember. And it really works. If it works for you, you would have more motivation, right? If you tried meditation and it works for you, then you have motivation to make time for it. Like you make time for brushing your teeth and taking a shower and going for a walk, you want to make time for meditation. And then if we do that, if we stop and look deeply, then we may have glimpses of prajna, of wisdom or insight, or the capacity to be awakened, a deep understanding. And that insight, it's important to remember that it's not intellectual. It can be also, but it's not intellectual. It's really almost a physical feeling. Oh, I see the world differently. I feel the world differently now. Beyond ideas, beyond preferences, beyond views, beyond knowledge also. We thought we knew something then. It's not that knowledge is not important, but it's beyond knowledge. If you see what I mean. It's not that we need to kind of not know anything. It's not that. And it's a lot about letting go of the burdens that our monsters carry, letting go of what I thought before about myself and about others. And it's a little bit insulting sometimes because we hold on to something, to our opinions or views as our identity, right? And all of a sudden, we understand that it's not. There's one meditation teacher, that said that the purpose of a Dharma friend is to insult you, meaning to not to insult you like to hurt you, but to kind of point out, like reflect stuff that you, blind spots. So that's wisdom, but it's also very freeing. So that's when we talk about paramita, is crossing to the other shore. That's that wisdom. It helps us to cross to the other shore, to see beyond, to see the same thing differently. And if we have it, we can offer it. And when we have insights, it's not like a one-time thing. It's all that's, any moment we can have an insight. And every time I have an insight, I immediately notice I'm less afraid. I have less fear. So remember we spoke about the gifts, material gift, the gift of the Dharma, and non-fear. If you have insight, you offer already non-fear because you're not afraid. People can feel that. So that's another quality of that paramita, non-fear. And in Buddhism, the essence of this wisdom is very clear. It's seeing the true nature of things, but in every moment, not as an idea. Okay? And it has basically 2 or 3 aspects that are very clear, and if you recognize them in your life, then you will be more free, possibly. So wisdom means that we go beyond our ideas, our perceptions, our definitions of things, our preferences, and we see that everything in this world has the nature of being impermanent, I hope I didn't make is that right? I think so. Impermanence. Everything is impermanent. And nothing has a separate self. No separate self. There is we are here, I'm here, you're here. But the idea, the illusion that we are separate makes us suffer. That's why we practice, because it makes us and others suffer. So no separate self. Or in the word that Thich Nhat Hanh invented, there is being and there's interbeing. This is because that is. This is because that is. This is not because that is not. If something that we really loved or liked isn't there anymore, it's because there's no more causes and conditions. And of course, it's okay to feel sad and to remember that thing that was there and is no longer there appears to be not there, but maybe it's there in another form. It didn't completely disappear because it cannot happen. Nothing can disappear. Nothing can become nothing. So Thich Nhat Hanh likes to give the example of a cloud which disappeared. But so the cloud, where did it go? The cloud that was there over the mountain before, where did it go? Is it completely gone or what? To what? So what is it now? Water in the air, vapor in the air. Yeah. So, but we think, and it's true that cloud did disappear. There was a cloud and now it's gone, but it's not completely gone. So that's the way we're invited to see things in order to overcome our suffering, basically. And we can do it at every moment, and then we forget and we remember again. And the most important thing when we look at this is to remember the motivation. That the motivation is because we are aware of suffering. We want to look at things in this way. It's not an ideology, okay? And basically, the third, there's like 3 parts to this. Impermanence, no self. This is called the 3 Dharma seals. Impermanence, no self. And the last one is a bit tricky. But it's called nirvana. But it's a word that was so overused that we don't know what it means anymore. But the original meaning of it is the extinction of ideas, no more ideas. Right view. So prajna, wisdom, is also called right view, which really means no views. We don't hold on to views, because every view we have is just relative. It's not necessarily wrong, but it's just relative. It's relative, and we usually miss out on some stuff. So that's sort of prajna, and as I said, there is a huge literature in the Buddhist tradition about prajna, so we're not going to cover all of it today. So as you can see, this helps us to go beyond what we usually do. We split reality, good and bad, up and down, failure and success, praise and blame, and all of that. So we go beyond that. We don't get carried away with that. That's the advantage of having some prajna, and also birth and death. So, which scare us a lot, right? Especially the getting old and death and getting sick part. So, this is really a very small taste about prajna, just because it's part of the Six Paramitas. But you can see how it can be very refreshing. It's very refreshing. And the description of nirvana is like, after you make a fire, and all the wood burned, and then there's the ashes, right? And they cool down. And if you touch it, it's really cooling, right? So it's cooling. Nirvana is described as cooling the flames of our afflictions, of our wrong ideas, of our suffering. So this is the third aspect of wisdom, is being fresh, remaining fresh. So this is what I have to say. Thank you so much for listening and for coming here. Before we go to the questions and answers, which we will explain a little bit more, anything about that? Any other remark or question just about that, about the prajna part?
So, quick question.
Yeah.
Just generally, how do you frame the dream part?
At night? I think it's the same activity of the mind, and we can be aware of it. So I think at night, usually more stuff from the store consciousness comes up. I'm not a dream expert at all, so not at all. I think in the Tibetan tradition, they're more exploring that more. And maybe Florent will have another thing to say about that. But for me, it's things coming up from store consciousness because they didn't have a chance to do it during the day. And it is possible to be aware. And actually, in the practice, there's a recommendation that if you have a nightmare, first of all, it may not be as bad as we think. It may be just a cleanup. The consciousness cleans up stuff, and it's a chance. But if you don't want to get caught in that, the recommendation is to get up, sit up. It's hard because when we sleep, we don't want to sit, and start rubbing, because if you go back, you will fall back into the sleep. Massage yourself to be aware of, not to get rid of the nightmare, but to be aware of it and not to kind of sink into it. So that's one practice you can do if you have nightmares. But I remember that I had nightmares the first or second time I went to Plum Village, and I spoke to this monk, and he said, "Oh, wonderful, you're cleaning up." So that's so I'm like, okay, I'm cleaning up, no problem. And it did feel like that. It felt like it was terrible dreams, really, not very nice. But he thought it was wonderful. So, but some people have the same dream over and over again, and then if you transform something, you notice the dream is gone. It doesn't have to repeat itself anymore. The message is, that's it. It's no longer needed. So, but I'm not a dream expert, so I must confess. Yeah. So thank you for the answer. For the question, sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Can you tell me more about interbeing?
Interbeing.
Yeah.
So, interbeing means that whatever exists here, let's say me or you, we are not existing separately of whatever it is that is around us. So if there is no air, there's no me, right? If there's no earth, there's no me. If there's no sun, there's no me. If there's no my parents, there is no me, and so on. So this is what it means interbeing, that our existence is not separate from, that we are made of I am made of non-me elements. I can think, oh, this is the air and this is me, and I don't care about it. But no, if there's no air, there's no me. So it invites care, because I know that I'm made of other things that are not me, including my enemies, including the person I hate the most. Something like that. So that's what it means. The simplest way of looking at it is, this one. Thank you. So, shall we have a bell and invite